I didn't know RSVP, but is it cool if I grab?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Is it all right if we take notes?
Is that?
Is it all right if we take notes on our phone?
Yeah, of course.
That's cheating.
Yeah. It's too efficient.
It's way too efficient.
Cool. All right. Well, welcome everyone to our second IEC workshop. Today we've got another hybrid workshop. We are so close to going back to in person full time, but part of the reason we went hybrid for this in the past IEC workshop is we're opening this up to every student in Idaho in higher education. So hopefully we have the whole state represented. I know we've got at least one guy from Rexburg there. That's not a virtual background, I imagine. That's Adam's. That's Adam's day to day.
Yep, I thought it'd be a fun, fitting background.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I'll give a brief intro, and then I'm going to just kind of facilitate the discussion. But really, we want this to be a dialogue. This session is about hearing from past winners and judges of IEC. We want to give you all the opportunity to pick their brains about what makes a winning team, a winning pitch at IEC. We've got two great folks here. Adam Stock with Cargo. It's no longer Cargo Made Easy. Is that right, Adam? It's just Cargo?
It's just Cargo Made.
Cargo Made. Okay. Drop the easy.
Yeah.
All right. I like it. Adam with Cargo Made was the winner of one of our tracks last year at IEC, and then went on to win the final pitch. Part of that final pitch is he gets a golden ticket to Boise Entrepreneur Week. And what was the 25K pitch competition last year?
2-minute drill edition.
2-minute drill edition. And it'll probably be renamed again this year because we rename it every year.
Why not?
Rebranding is the theme here today. But Adam went on to that competition and won that. And then had a chance to go on to the 2-minute drill. Tell me the date when we can tune in for that, Adam, and find out the results.
That'll be April 29th. So coming up here soon.
Okay.
It'll be available on Amazon Prime and Bloomberg TV, from what I'm aware.
All right. So we'll all be watching on pins and needles with that. And as you can already tell, Adam's a very good salesman. He's pitching his product and his appearances on these TV shows, and it's great example for why we do this. Part of it is to help entrepreneurs go do the next thing, which in our community is Boise Entrepreneur Week, and they create an opportunity for them to go do the next thing, which is 2-minute drill. Beyond there, who knows?
Now you actually have to build it for real, Adam.
What?
So now you have to build it for real.
Yeah.
So we're going to hear from Adam about his experience at the Idaho Entrepreneur Challenge, and we'll also hear from Nick Kratz. Nick has been a longtime supporter of the Idaho Entrepreneur Challenge and Venture College. Nick is a partner at VYNYL. I'll let him talk to you a little bit about that. And he's been a judge for several years in this competition as well as others, and is also an active investor in the community and all things entrepreneur related. Nick's the go-to guy here. So I will use that as the quick introduction, and really what I wanted to do was start with Adam and just have Adam tell us a little bit about your experience at the IEC and with the context that this was last year, this was virtual. This year we're going back to an in-person competition. But just tell us, Adam, about your application, your preparation, just a little bit about how you got there.
Yeah, love to. So it was about a year ago. Unfortunately for me, it was all online. I'm very envious for you guys that it's in person. I am not a computer guy. I don't do well I really rely on my strengths, being able to shake a hand and look them in the eye. And so it was a little hard for me. I'll be honest. It was a game changer. And I really had to go outside of my comfort zone to learn how to play in this new arena. So starting off, I was so grateful. I heard about the IEC because of a friend who competed in it years ago. And he didn't win, but he's like, hey, you got this idea. Why don't you give this thing a try? And so I was like, all righty. Backstory, actually, I had heard about it like almost a year and a half prior to me doing it. And I really felt inadequate. Like, I don't have a chance. Like, why me? Like, no, like I felt really inadequate on myself. And I went and I did door-to-door sales. And I learned how to give a pitch. I learned how to get cussed at. I learned how to be friendly with police officers when people call me. You know, I learned a lot, but my boss will even tell you, I said going into it, there's this competition I'm told about called the IEC. I am here to sell so I can learn how to give a good pitch. And everybody else was out there for the money and all this. And I was like, I got to learn how to give a pitch because this is my opportunity to do something. So that's like the background story for you. So I come into this and Ryan, I'm talking with Ryan, and Ryan invites me to this course where before the IEC, and he was able to really help. What do you guys call that program?
That's the Venture College Incubator, and Ryan Basso, the Associate Director of the Venture College.
Thank you. So through the Venture College and the incubator there, I had this opportunity. It was like every Tuesday I signed on, and I got to be able to talk with other people who were like in the same boat I was. Like, I got this idea. I kind of got a product. What do I do? Like, how do I reach out to my market? And that was probably one of the most beneficial things to me was, how do I label a market? How do I approach it? Do I say like, hey, you've got this problem, I got a solution? Or do you say like, hey, this is really flashy, really cool, really cheap, you want to buy one, right? And there's so many ways to go about it. So that incubator was great to finally get like a direction, some traction going. So now with like a little bit of a sales background and just learning how to smile and nod, that's all I learned from sales. I'll be honest with you. Like, that's it. 5 months of just, you know, and being rejected, right? Being willing for someone to say no, right? And how do you work with that? So going into the IEC, I'll be very honest, I don't know like how many people are here or like who's all doing what, but I'm just kind of speaking to you guys as if you guys are about to go do this thing. So I want you guys to know, like, inadequate, feel like you don't got a chance, that's great, because that's right where I was. And, you need to give yourself some more credit, like pat yourself on the back. The fact that you're here says a lot about who you are. There's the road less taken, right? Everybody else doing the same thing. Here's the road less taken. So already, like, kudos to each of you. So my IEC experience, I really looked at it and I said, I got one shot at this. And so I'm going to give it everything I got. So my wife will tell you, I was up crazy late hours, working on a pitch, writing it out, doing it in my sleep, just constantly preparing and asking people to, like, will you listen to my pitch? Will you give me a review on it? And then I started a network, and I found that like my dad's friend's brother did like this camera shooting, and he filmed a full like commercial for me that I used in my pitch. And that really helped because I had a product that has never been on the market before. It was really hard for people to understand. So as I started to give this pitch and I was practicing with friends, I found that, hey, something's not right here. And so I went out and I found a solution. I just networked with a friend and I got a little video made. And the video was able to help show in the presentation. And after the first round with the judges, I was scared to death. My heart was pounding. Tip of advice, have some water in a bathroom close. Like, but really, it was just practice. One of my favorite books is called the book Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. And in it, he says, we do not rise to the occasion. Rather, we fall to our highest level of preparation. And for me, I work a lot. I'm in college too, and everyone's like, "Oh, you'll do great. Like you'll just rise to the occasion." And I'm gonna tell you guys, that's not the case, right? You're gonna be really nervous at first, especially after the first pitch of judges, and you're fine. But rather, you're gonna follow the highest level of preparation. So just prepare, do your homework, and then you got nothing to worry about, really. I hope I'm not babbling.
Oh, no, this is good. This is good. I want to come back specifically to your experience in the room, but I also want to hear from Nick. As a person who's judged this competition more than a handful of times, what have you heard in Adam's discussion that stands out to you as you think about our audience right now is students who have applied to this competition, and they'll find out March 8th if they're one of the 24 finalists, but they're already thinking about how do they position themselves for success. So maybe some things that have stood out to you in Adam's remarks, and then any additional things you think about going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing that Adam's harped on a couple times, and as he's been talking, is preparation. Practicing your pitches relentlessly really does make a difference. I've had to go out and raise money in my life before, and if I could get someone to sit down and just listen to me, I would go to coffee shops and find random people, and we're done hearing it. They're like, yes, I can tell you the ins and outs of your pitch. It really does matter, because just saying it out loud over and over and over yourself, one, you're gonna figure out where the weaknesses are in it. The way that you talk about it will get better, and you will actually just go through and change it 100 times. How many times did you change your pitch deck, Adam? From the first time you built it?
Well over 100 times, and I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah, easily.
And it depends on which competition you're talking about.
That's the thing. You've now done 3 or 4 of them, right? And so each time you're kind of adjusting it a little bit. You learn more from where maybe you didn't win in the previous pitch competition, but it really does matter. And I think in this particular competition, because a lot of them are different, Adam's had to go through a few cycles of it. This one, I think there's a couple things that really stand out to judges that really matter, which is what's the problem and how clearly can you define it? Why are you the person that should solve this problem, right? And so Adam, I think part of his success in a lot of these competitions, Adam has a really good story for why, and I'm sure you worked on that story quite a bit, for why cargo made is his passion. And maybe I'll pause there, and you should tell that part of your story so people can see what I'm talking about.
Sure. Hi, my name is Adam Stock. I'm the founder. I could give you. Quick thing on that. My wife is rather comical at times, and both when I did door-to-door sales and this, she'll jokingly jump in and be like, "Hi, I'm Adriana, founder of Car," and she'll do my whole pitch because she's heard it so many times. But my story really is, I was working for a landscaping company, and where I was working there as a mechanic, we saw a problem where employees would leave with their loads secured in the morning. When they come back, the loads weren't secured. They'd throw it on the back of the flatbed, and they go to lunch. When they come back, the straps were gone. And this caused some problems, some legal issues from some accidents. And so I went to my boss, and I'm like, "Hey, why don't we buy some motorized tie-down straps? They're built in, they're easy to use. The guys will always have one on hand, so they can't blame you." And he's like, "Yeah, let's go buy them." And there wasn't anything out there. And for me, I have a background. My dad was a truck driver. My uncles were all truck drivers. My grandpa was a truck driver. My grandpa actually died driving a semi-truck right before I was born. And so I never had the opportunity to know my grandpa. But the trucking industry and just hauling of cargo and securing loads has always been a part of my life. I remember it was one of the things, I'm LDS. And so one of the things in my church, a lot of times we'll go to help someone move. And it was always a proud moment for my dad. I can remember securing loads when I was 7, 8 years old. And you'd have these grown ace men around, they're can't figure it out. And it was just this proud moment for my dad. And so for me, it's always been a part of my life. Hey, I know how to secure loads. It's part of the family. And I have a background in engineering. I worked 3 years for an engineering company as a head fabricator. So between welding and manufacturing, I understood all of this. And so when I had this opportunity, when the boss was like, "Go buy it," and there wasn't anything, I was like, well, who better to do it than me, right? I've got a passion, I've got a background in engineering, and who better, right? And I really felt like it was just almost like a divine, opportunity favors the bold, right? When preparation, opportunity meets preparation. And I felt I had really had an opportunity and I took it. And I think everybody will find theirs if they will just kind of go on. Anyways, that's my story. I hope I didn't.
Let me break down what Adam just said, right? And so you won't have that long to talk about your why in a pitch, by the way. But
I tell you, it's hard.
let me break down why what he just did is really important. So he just talked about the problem he's trying to solve in detail, right? It's a safety issue, it's a legal issue. The company he worked for approved buying the product. So now you're meeting the problem with a solution that there's an obvious market for. The third part is he talked about why he specifically is the person to be able to solve it, right? He has a background in this, he's done this before, he has a degree in engineering, his grandfather died from an accident from trucking. Like, there's a lot there that positions both that the product is needed and that he's the one to solve it. This is how every pitch has to start. And it's really important. And I'll tell you right now, that's a big reason why Adam keeps winning pitch competitions, is because he's got this down, right? He's got that part of it down on how to talk about your product. So sorry, thank you for let me just throw you on the spot real quick.
I love that you were able to pick those apart because that's something I spent a lot of time on. So I'm very grateful that you're able to see that. And I hope you guys are all able to see that too. Like it really is a flow. You got to create it in a story.
Well, and the reason why I want to bring that up is because this is where every pitch deck or pitch that you're going to do starts, right? And so I will be completely honest. I've been judging this thing for a long time. I've judged a whole lot of other pitch competitions. If this is wrong, I probably don't care about anything else you have to say. That's how important it is.
So let's review that. The problem,
the solution, and why you're the one to solve it.
The team. And I would even add,
and the team, yeah, a lot of times it's a team. It's not just you as an individual. So a lot of times you might talk about your team that you put together, since it's different for each company. But it's pretty important to really articulate those three and quickly. Adam had to give his entire pitch in 2 minutes. So when I saw him do this for our pitch competition, he summed that all up in maybe 15 seconds. I will make him do that.
Yeah.
In 15 seconds, he was like, I'm an engineering student. I won IEC. There's lots of accidents on the road. It's very dangerous. You have to get this right? Here's a product. People will buy it. And then he told us all about the product and where the trajectory of it could go, right? He had 2 minutes to say the whole story.
The funny thing is I look back on that pitch and I go, oh, that was awful. It's horrible.
I don't know how anyone does 2 minutes. I've never had to pitch anything in 2 minutes in my life. So
I thought the IEC was hard. I went for 4 minutes. I'm like, this is impossible. And then you guys, and I didn't find out about that until it was 2 days before. And I had 2 exams that weekend. So I had to go in and beg both my professors. One of them wouldn't let me get out of it. And so literally I went and I took an exam. And then I got in the car and left. And so I basically wrote my pitch while I was driving to Boise. Yeah. I was like 2 minutes. It's hard. But one thing I actually really liked about it, if I might say, one of the things is now when someone asks about my company, I don't have to take 10 minutes to tell them. 2 minutes. I'm ready to go. I can tell you what the problem is, my solution, and why I'm the guy to do it. Just like you said. And it really makes it show what is important about your company. If you can't sum it up in 2 minutes, you need to work on it more. And I found that to be really true.
Yeah, we get a lot of, complaints, pushback of, I only have 4 minutes. I need more time. And I think it's a good point of you have to boil it down to the essentials, right? What people really need to know about your business. Because you might have financials that say, oh, by year 5, we're going to be making $1 million or whatever. But what do they really need to know? What is absolutely essential? And I think that if I could add a 4th item to Nick's list, I think, remembering back to your pitch, Adam, traction. People are using this. People have validated this idea. This isn't just Adam in his shop going, man, this is going to be cool. Wait till they find out. It's actually people in the market saying, yes, I want one. I want 5. I want 100. I remember you had a slide of all these people that you had talked to and that were either advisors or customers that have said, oh yeah, that will solve problems in my company. Talk a little bit about your early stage customer discovery, how you got that validation.
Yeah, really it started off, I put one in my truck and I went to go pick up a load for my work in my truck and I was in Home Depot. Some guy was helping me load up the 2x4s and he's like, whoa, dude, that's the coolest thing. And someone was walking by and he's like, I want one of those. Do you got a card? And like, I got a sticky note, I think, in the truck. So I like wrote it down and gave it to him. I put one in his truck. And then I was like, all right, well, so I called up my uncle. He had the landscaping company. So I put some on his. And then my mom was getting her hair done. And her husband owned a roofing company, Mesa Roofing. And that was one of the ones on the slide. And she was telling him like, oh, yeah, Adam invented this thing. And he made a few sales. And she's like, well, hey, like, have him come over, talk to my husband. At first, it just honestly started off as word of mouth, but that's what gave the credibility. Like, yeah. I was able to come into this pitch and don't feel okay. And this is where, you know, I had to put a little lipstick on the pig. I don't want to say stretch the truth, but I'm like, Mesa Sales, Mesa Roofing, Big Tree Landscaping. All that was my mom's hairdresser, my uncle, right? But there were people, right? And it was solving a problem. And now it's super fun. My dad started a handyman company since, and he gives out more business cards than I do. With his trucks going out, he's made me more sales now just simply because people see it, they love it, and they want one. And it really speaks for itself. But honestly, don't feel inadequate bootstrapping it up. Like, you don't have to sell on Facebook and Amazon. Go sell it to your mom, sister's, cousin's, dog's friend. Like, go for it. Like, a sale's a sale. Like,
yeah, I agree with you.
I think now we're also talking about kind of the next phase as you're structuring your pitch competitions or your pitch deck, I should say, or what you're going to talk about, which is report on the traction you have and how you're entering the marketplace. Right? And so there's a few things. Now, Adam had actually built a couple of these and literally put them on people's trucks. Not every product or every idea that's going to be pitched at IEC that would win is going to have a story like that. So you have to think about how you're going to report on the traction you do have, right? Have you tested with potential customers? Like, have you gone and elevator pitched and had someone say like, yeah, I could see myself using that, right? And then how are you going to report on those numbers? I think sometimes in these pitches we'll have people be like, oh yeah, I went out and knocked on like 50 doors and talked to people about it. Not enough, right? I knocked on 50 doors. I had 30 who said they would commit to buy it if I had it. Like, report on it as best you can, because now it's helping us as judges maybe understand the beginnings of how big the opportunity is, right? Like, how many potential customers really are there for you? Have you already gotten people to say that they would want it, right? Like, and that's really important for the next part of it, because you then have to quantify the marketplace, right? You have to quantify how big the opportunity is, and it really helps when you start talking about the kind of traction you have. And that's usually the next thing. I mean, each pitch deck is going to be a little different. I'm sure you guys are doing lots of coaching on how to put them together, but like, those are a lot of the fundamentals that you have to do. So the first part is starting with why you, right? What the problem is, how you're solving it. The second part is like, how have I tested that? Do people actually want it? And then the third part is, how big is the opportunity? How big is the market that I can sell these things into, right? And it has to be somewhat realistic. The last part, and I don't know, do you guys usually have them do like financial projections? It's tough because these are pretty early projects. It helps sometimes to show that you've thought about it. And what I mean by that is everyone has this graph that's like, look, we need this much money, and here's the hockey stick of growth we're going to have, like, because you gave it to us. Judges and investors know it's BS, right? We know that that's BS, but like, if you can show us that it's thought out, what I don't want to see is if you have a software product and you're like, I'm going to spend 20 grand building this piece of software. Well, I know that a software engineer costs 150 to 180 grand a year, and you need more than one of them, and it's going to take you longer than 3 weeks or, to get to market. So like, you have to like make believable numbers as you're talking about some of these things that will get you to the the opportunity that you're trying to address.
If
So you're
I
looking
add,
believable PS.
Believable.
yeah, if I might add, one of my favorite things in all of the pitches, I've heard it in all of them, is I love it. So I hope somebody doesn't have this in their pitch. I don't mean to, but my favorite thing to hear is over $20 billion is in the logistics industry. If I were to tap just 0.5% of that industry, we would have $30 million in our first 5 years. I love it every single time. It's like, we could tap just 0.5%. It's like, yeah, of course you can. Like, but how? Like, what's your plan to get there? The way around that was the believable BS, is what we call it, the BBB. BBS, whatever. Was I didn't have a projection, and I didn't really want to blow smoke, right? Because we all know when someone's, blowing the smoke. So I was like, all right, just like you said, like, go knock the doors. 50's not enough. Go hit more. So what I did is I only had like 3 installed, I think, when I started. So what I did is I went to other people and I said, would you, if this went to market, would you be interested? And would you be willing to sign your name here that's saying, like, yeah, I'd buy it. And so I came up with a list of like 20 people. And then I said, awesome, here are 20 pre-orders, as I called them. And I was like, here's 20 people. You guys give me the money so I can buy this machine right here. And I'm going to go fill those orders. That's $10,000 in revenue just from those 20 people. That was my projection, just 20 people. And I don't know, at least it worked for me. I don't know, but it was believable and it showed I had a plan.
It was legitimate.
Again, this is about reporting on the traction you have in front of you, right? Whatever that is, there's different ways to go about what Adam's talking about. For instance, I mean, you have like a product demo that you're showing people. So like, everyone's got a little bit different of where they're at. Software projects, I'd be surprised if you have like people signed up on your thing, right? But there's a way to do pre-orders that Adam's talking about. There's a way to get customer feedback. Even if you don't have pre-orders, even if you just said, listen, I've talked to 250 people. These are all buyers of an organization. I know that 75 of them would pay this much. They told me this much or so. Like, as long as I can start to quantify the opportunity by knowing how many customers you could go sell, it makes a big difference.
Yeah, and part of the reason we're doing this now, it's March 3rd. Competition will be April 7th. So for those of you that get into the finals, you're hearing from the horse's mouth what the judge is looking for and what the competitors did. They got them in the winner's circle. So, go knock doors, go find that validation, and don't be afraid if you do get rejected, like Adam said, and don't be afraid to change and evolve your idea to address that.
Rejection is a great opportunity to get better at your product and get better at your pitch, by the way. So if you get a lot of no, what you actually need to be thinking is not like, man, I guess this just sucks. No, what you need to be thinking is like, okay, like I need to work on this more to figure out what takes that no to a yes. And, there's people that go through those cycles over and over, and you want to do it now before you start trying to build it, right? Because if you built it after, before you've gone and got all this feedback, like an investor or a pitch competition judge is going to be like, why didn't you learn that nobody wanted it first, right? Like, that's really important. Well, and by the way,
why you're saying no.
By the way, sometimes I think those pivots make great stories during your pitch, right? Like, so if you're like, listen, I went and chatted with 1,000 people and, 10 said they wanted it. And I was like, crap. And then I like changed this like set of things. And now 700 people say they want it. That's great. That shows that you can roll with the punches. That's a great story to include in something like this. So anyway.
Almond Joy Cookies, not Almond Joy. What's the little tiny cookie crackers? Dang it, now I'm totally forgetting them.
Oh, dude, it's Girl Scout season, man. So I'm thinking ones and Samoas and.
What is it? They're like the tannish bag, tan and like blue. I've totally spaced it now. I thought it was Almond Joy, but that's something. Anyways, he started off selling a product, and that was his mom's recipe of cookies. And so he used to give his pitch, and he would bring the cookies, and nobody ever wanted what he was buying. I don't even know what it was. But finally, one day, someone's like, your cookies are great. Can I buy those? So he ditched his product and went with the cookies. He got enough no's and switched. And now it's the big, I've got to find the name. Anyways.
Why not cookies? Isn't that like the plot of Snap on Books?
That's great, though. I mean, yeah, I think the lesson there is listen to your customer, right? Listen to what your customer is telling you and be willing to change and respond. I want to talk a little bit about in the room, right? So, Adam, in the room virtually. This year we'll be back in the room, and the format here is you walk into the room. There's 4 or 5 judges there. You will have a 4-minute pitch, and then there will be 4 to 5 minutes for judges to ask questions, and then kind of a 2 minutes passing time, which was actually pretty easy when we're on Zoom. But now we're going to be at jump. And people are going to be going from one floor to the next, so we'll see if everyone can adjust. But Nick, maybe start with you. Tell us a little bit about when you're in that room, team or the single entrepreneur comes in. What are you looking for? Everything from body language to being able to tell they're prepared, all the way through the pitch to the Q&A session. What are some things that you, as a judge, even as an investor, are looking for to give you confidence in that team?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few different ways that I can answer that, and some of them are almost opposites. So the first one I'll give like that is I want to see someone who understands their problem and can speak to it confidently, but yet seems coachable, right? Which doesn't come across necessarily as like overly confident. And so there's a way to do that, which is like the way that you project ideas. So an example would be like, from the research we've done, we found this, right? Instead of just being like, this is the way. Boom, Steve Jobs, mic drop. I actually brought a black turtleneck just for you, right? Like, I don't care, right? But there's a way to use your words where it shows that you're competent and you put the work in to justify why you're coming to us now with this great idea. And so think about that. That's again back to practicing your pitch. Really think about how you can both come across very confident, but also if I start asking you questions, that you're like coachable. You'll take feedback. Like that's what good entrepreneurs do. And so like judges or investors, we're like that's a tick in like the back of our head. We're like, is that something they're going to be able to do, right? The other thing is entrepreneurs can succeed or fail by their ability to stand up during Q&A, right? Because you're going to get stuff from us that you didn't necessarily practice, right? And so you have to really have done your research to understand, market conditions on the product that you're trying to bring forward, how your solution is going to be different. You will definitely get questions about competitors in the marketplace. And so really understanding to how to talk about why you're a differentiator.
I'm the first one to think of this, Nick. There's no competitors to my idea.
Right. Yeah, you're the first one ever. So actually, he jokes because a couple of years ago, I think I called Nick and Ryan, and I was like, I do this. I don't know if I'll be able to do it now because it's not virtual, but in the virtual ones, it was really cool because someone started pitching something, and I just pull up Google, and I'd like Google search it. And I'd be like, okay, boom, so here's 3 competitors. The most expensive one is $150 on Amazon. How much you selling your thing for? Like, I don't need to hear anymore, right? Like, and so I'm like, did you Google it? Like, did you Google the thing that you're making? And that's like the bare minimum, by the way. That is the bare minimum that someone giving a pitch should be thinking about. But that's going to come up. I guarantee you that questions about competitors will come up. Understanding why you're differentiating yourself in the market. And if you don't have a good answer for why you're differentiating yourself in the market, it's going to be really hard to win a competition or get fundraising. Because we want to see that you're going to have an opportunity to get traction against an already established player. And it's okay. A lot of people think when they're putting pitches together or thinking through something they want to be innovative around, they think they have to be the first ones to have that idea. You don't at all. That is not actually what makes entrepreneurs successful. What makes entrepreneurs successful is that you're doing something within the confines of that idea that gives you traction in the marketplace. That's the part that makes you successful. So sometimes that's about removing traction for prospective users. Sometimes it's because your thing is better. Sometimes it's just because it's cheaper. Like you figured out a manufacturing process that could make it easier to produce a thing. I mean, you have to define what that is and then prove that it's true. That's what getting traction is about. It's like defining what your differentiating is and then reporting why it's true. And we know, like, we know that you guys haven't done every little single step, because if you had, you would have already sold 7,000, right? But the fact that you're going through the process to figure it out, that's the really important part, especially for a competition like this. It shows that you're taking the right steps that we'd expect a successful entrepreneur to take.
Yeah, the competition, I have no competitors is a bit of a joke, because I think people do sometimes think that way, but think of competition very broadly. I mean, competition to cargo made could be rope, right? However people are securing this, and if you can position it as, hey, I know that there are alternatives, but here's why I'm better, that's really where you want to head. So, Adam, tell us a little bit about your experience in the room, your 4-minute pitch, the Q&A, any tips and tricks that you maybe, lessons learned from the first one that you put to use in the second and third.
I've got a list right here for you. I'll just try to comb through them. So I learned a lot from the IEC. So for it, because afterwards, and I don't know if you guys are going to do it again. I love the reviews I got at the end of my pitch. The judges review, and at first I was like, big whoop. But then when I went on for the second competition through the Boise Entrepreneuring Week, oh, that stuff was gold. I was like reading that like crazy. And then I did the Boise Entrepreneuring Week, and so now I had a few under my belt. So I want to give you guys a few things that I really learned. And I'll tell you guys, it's the little things. So when I took point on David Meltzer's the 2-minute drill, I'll give you a few things that I really got some good feedback on. I was very grateful that they caught them. So one, who are you talking to? Like, you need to know your audience. So are you talking to a potential customer, or are you talking to a panel of judges or investors, right? The way you're going to approach that is very different, because if I'm selling to a customer, I'm going to focus on, like, you've got a problem, I got a solution, you give me the money, I'm going to make you happy. Where the other one is, hey, there's a problem in the world, there's a solution, here's my traction, here's how I'm going to do it, here's my plan, here, right? It's going to be a little different. So one, know your audience. That's really important. Don't pitch it to like how you would your friend, right? And go watch some pitches. One of the things I'm most grateful for was my wife. Right before I did the 2-minute drill, I came back from class, and my wife had fast forward to the end of every single episode that the 2-minute drill had come out with, and she wrote down every single question that the judge had asked them. So what they do on the 2-minute drill is they do 2 minutes of pitch, and you're asked one question, and you're given like 30 seconds to answer. So my wife wrote down every single one, and then she put a star next to the winners. So we went back and we watched them. And so, success is something that can be learned. And so go and watch some pitches of previous winners, how they do that. So who are you pitching to is really important. One thing I'm going to go with that is in one of my absolute favorite books I think everybody needs to read is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Incredible book. Go read it. Like, change your life. One of the things in the book is he talks about the power of people's names. I had the opportunity. I started to do this when I did the IEC. So when I did door-to-door sales and someone, I say, hi, my name's Adam. I'm with Active. I'm the bug guy in the area, taking care of your neighbors, right? And they say their name's John. I say, John, so nice to meet you. I'm taking care of your neighbor, Frank, right? Use their names. So when we come to the Q&A portion and I had the opportunity to see like their names. If someone says like, hey, Mark here with blah, 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 like, I got a question for you, try to use their name. Be personable. One of the things David Meltzer really liked was I was the only person in all the episodes to have ever called the judges by their names, and it stuck with them, and they really liked it. That's one thing. Know who you're talking to and be personable with them. If they ask a question, don't just shoot back. Say, hey, that's a really great question. Or, you're not the first one to ask that. Here's my, right? But don't just be like, like, you know what I mean? Like, you ask a question, I give an answer. Be friendly, be personable. That's a wonderful question, run with it. The other one, be unique. Got to do something to set you apart. Mine, as weird as it is, right? Nick will tell you, I always feel like a fish out of water in a way, but Last night I did not believe that, to be honest. I didn't know it was going to be that. But I'm always showing up in boots and a button-up, and my pitch opening is always, hey, howdy, hey, right? I'm not saying, hello, my name, right? Who's the kid that said howdy, hey? Like, what is this guy, Woody on Toy Story? You know, and I get a lot of feedback from that. And I don't know, am I going too much? Am I talking?
Oh, this is good. Keep going.
I hope you guys are like these are little, and I know this might sound dumb, but one of the things I do is I record myself and I check that I'm making eye contact. I'm standing, literally when I did the Boise Entrepreneuring Week, I had everything down to, in the logistics industry, over 11% of products are damaged during the transportation process, right? So I'm talking about, it was like this, 11%. So in my mind, I thought 1 and 1, right? 11% of products are damaged in the transportation process, right? You see, I'm like talking with my hands. I had everything scripted. Body language is really important because when you stand up there, and we all know it, when you get up there and you say, hello, my name is Adam Stock, the founder of Cargo Made Easy. I had a problem years ago where I was securing a load and I didn't have a strap on, right? We all see it, right? But I'm telling you, right? But I'm telling you guys, it's the little things. When you can go, hey, howdy, hey, my name is Adam Stock. I'm the founder of Cargo Made Easy, and I'm proud to come from a family of truck drivers. My grandfather, father, and uncles were all truckers. I've grown up around trucking, right? Be friendly, move, use those hands, like, be passionate. One of the biggest things that I learned from David Meltzer when he was in Boise Entrepreneuring Week, as he told me, he said, Adam, when I invest in a company, I don't invest in a product. He said, I invest in the owner. He says, if I am going to go to a horse race, I don't bet on the horse. I bet on the jockey every time. And that was his advice to me. So I realized I can either blow smoke about the company or make myself friendly and out there. And I want to do business with that guy. By far, my favorite compliment from the IEC was one of the judges, while I was talking with him, he goes, Adam, even if I don't buy if your product fails, I think you should go into being a talk show radio host. I'd listen to you every morning on the way to work. That was like my favorite compliment I've ever received. And so have fun, get up there, be excited, be goofy. It sets you apart. It really does. And I don't know if I'm being too crazy or talking.
This is good, Adam. I think the only thing is we're probably going to have 10 teams start with, hey, howdy, hey. It won't be unique anymore. Your tagline is going to be.
Hopefully, people from this that you need a sound effect as you first start.
Yeah. No, but I think you're right. I mean, here's the context. You've got 24 teams. You've got a judging room that, gosh, what do they see? 6 or 8 pitches throughout the day. So at the end of the day, their brains are pretty zapped, right? And they go into a room and they review the scores and they go, okay, Cargo Made Easy. Anyone remember what that one was about? And you had all the scores and it's like, oh, I remember that guy. You do want to make an impression, right? And sometimes there's novelty to that.
Don't make that your focus.
Oh yeah, I mean the substance
part of it, right? That's the milk in the cereal. Right?
Yeah, you got substance and style, right? I mean, I think part of the reason you won was you did have a good dose of style in with a heavy dose of substance, right? You had a validated concept that was built, it was functioning, you had customers, and you just delivered a great pitch. I think there can be a bit of a myth about pitch competitions of you just got to be really good at pitching. Yes, but you also have to have a good idea. You can be the best pitching person, and if I can tell you, I recruit our judges. If they see BS, doesn't matter how good you are at pitching, you're going to have a tough go in the Q&A. And then when the scoring comes out, it'll bear it out. So I want to pause real quick because I know we have a lot of folks on Zoom and we have folks here in the audience. So I want to make sure we have some time for questions. So if you have questions on Zoom, please just type them in the chat. Kara will grab those for us. If you all have questions for Adam or Nick here, I want to open it up to that and make sure that everyone has an opportunity to talk with these guys.
I should also mention real quick, while Adam was talking there, he talked about doing a bunch of reviewing the 2-minute drill David Meltzer show. Every single pitch that's ever been in a finalist at Boise Entrepreneur Week is on YouTube. There's 2 seasons of Dave Meltzer's 2-minute drill. There's a lot of content of this out there. I mean, you could probably just go see Adam's like 3 times if you wanted to. You basically already got it here today, but but like it's true though. I mean, it really does help to watch this stuff and think about why, like break it down. Why are they winning? What's in their pitch that's resonating with judges? Because you can replicate a lot of that, whether that's being novel in how you're introducing yourself, or kind of making your drapes match your pitch. I mean, he jokes, but yeah, he pretty much I've always seen you in plaid and cowboy boots, right? So like, you got a uniform, Anyways, I mean, I'm making a joke here, but like you can be scientific about how you're preparing and watch these things, and yeah, please questions. This is a great opportunity for all you guys. I mean, it's not every day you get to meet with someone who won the competition you're about to do. So.
I add one really quick thing, which I realized was the most important thing, if I might give you guys. Anything you take away from me, I personally have never and will never write out a script. Like, I feel like that's the quickest way to shoot yourself in the foot. Don't write it out, bullet point it. Like, the problem is, and you watch it so many times, people, my favorite response, I can't wait for you guys to watch the show. One girl got up there for the David Meltzer's TV show, and David goes, "You're a great reader. Like, you're very well scripted. If you sound like, hello, my name is Adam," like you're reading it, you're scripted. What's going to happen is you're going to get nervous. And rather than saying something like, "We tie down loads," and you're supposed to say, "We secure loads," you're going to trip yourself and your brain's going to go, "You messed up," right? My biggest advice is be fluid, right? Let it flow. So what I do is I always do bullet points. And then what I'll do is I'll sit there with a timer and I'll add to those bullet points where they get bigger, but I'll never solidify unless it's a really important quote. I'll script that perfectly, but your brain cannot remember that many things.
Right.
So
that's come across natural.
Yeah,
Sorry, that was my last 2 cents.
There's big differences in being prepared, right? And so there's the other part of this is really being able to do this on your feet because you've taken the time ahead of time to actually prepare. So I do elevator pitches for fun pretty regularly. And I usually make them up as I'm walking into the room. And the point really is just I'm trying to keep that thing going that I don't practice as much anymore. Being able to like have the idea, have it thought out enough that I can like deliver a pitch and think on my feet as they ask questions. It's like the last one I did was total BS. I took 4th in this competition. There was like 190 people. And my pitch was, I'm going to start a consultancy that helps technology companies stop using the cloud. And everyone's like, what? That's what everyone does. That's crazy. Tell me more, right? And I was like, listen, there's this point at which like it stops being cost effective because as the cloud scales up, some of these companies are paying $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a month to use the cloud infrastructure. There's a point at which it makes sense to move back to having hosted infrastructure. So like, that's nonsense. What I just said is crazy. Like most companies would not do crazy. The point was, can I like articulate this idea well enough that's believable, right? And so like you have to practice these things. You have to come with enough domain expertise and knowledge to be able to think on your feet quick enough. And that's a lot of what Adam's talking about. It's like you have to have it kind of ready to go to some extent. Now I was making that one up because I'm trying to practice skill, but the point is that you can really, really prepare for this without being scripted.
All right. Any unscripted questions?
Yeah, perfect. I see Jenny Anderson's got a question.
All right.
It says, I'm revenue generating via a partner that will eventually become a competitor as I scale and build things, a hiring network and full content library. How do I address that without risking my credibility?
I think there's a few ways to look at that problem, and really you have to talk about it in the way of what it gets you right now. So if it helps you launch and scale your business, I think you have to talk about it through that lens. And I don't know exactly the exact situation that you're talking about on why they would necessarily be a direct competitor, after you start scaling up. Now, if it's something that could be threatening, meaning not that they're just going to be a competitor, but that your infrastructure is built on something of theirs, yeah, you have to address how you're going to migrate away from that. You have to talk about how that is not actually something that is going to tank you and how you have a plan to deal with it. In a competition like this, I'd be hesitant to go super deep. Like talk about the traction you do have. Talk about why you're the one to solve the problem. Talk about some of that stuff, and have it ready if someone brings it up when they're talking about your competitors in the marketplace or whatever. Have your answer ready to go, because that's going to help you look good. But I would not dedicate a slide to how your current partner is going to F you. That's a terrible plan.
I think one thing though is the more, coming back to the first message here, is the more you practice, the more that you present to people that have knowledge about what you're doing, or the marketplace in general, you'll find out if that question's coming up consistently.
Right.
And one trick that people have is you try to predict what questions will be asked of you. Well, you're partnered with this company, or aren't they going to eat your lunch sooner or later?
Right.
And you may have a slide that's not one of your main slides in the main presentation. You may have it in the appendix and say, good question, I actually have something that I want to show you that will tell you why that's not going to happen.
Well, and the reason why this is really relevant is because in a lot of the pitches that we'll see in IEC, there becomes this question about protectability of the idea. That comes up in Q&A pretty often. In some ways, that was what I was trying to get you on when I was Googling, when you're talking about how you don't have competitors or whatever. That's part of what I'm trying to play gotcha on. And so that's the type of question that you'd want to be prepared to talk about, but it wouldn't necessarily make it in that context as a slide. And again, it goes to being prepared, being able to talk about your domain expertise. But that will come up. That will come up.
Just anticipating, and the more you can do your pitch, the more you'll be able to anticipate what people will ask you.
Jay, great question.
The other is you're not going to be able to anticipate everything, but you need to be able to smile, laugh, and act on your feet. One of the weirdest questions I got in the IEC was, is it compatible with the Tesla Cybertruck? And I had to react to that. And so I was like, that's an awesome question. They're not even on the market yet. And so, no, it doesn't. I don't know. But I said, you know what? I would love to personally work with Elon Musk. That'd be a great opportunity of mine. So when it comes out, we'll make sure there's one for it, right? So I told the guy straight up, no, we don't, right? But learn to react. Throw us a little bit of humor. Be like, don't be like, oh, no, I don't know. Be like, yeah, it's not on the market yet, but when it is, we'll have one, right?
Well, in some ways, that response calls them out for asking a dumb question.
Yeah, there's no dumb questions there.
Oh, there's dumb questions from judges, absolutely.
Any other questions in the chat?
Yeah.
Okay. Questions here?
I have a question, actually.
Isaiah?
So you guys are talking about reporting on the traction you have during the actual pitch, kind of believable BS. And so you guys are talking about how, for example, you want to showcase the traction your company's gained. And so I wanted to know from a judge's point of view, but then also too from a competitor's point of view, what do you find has more traction? Because basically, so from what I'm trying to develop and implement, typically we're providing services for businesses. So these are, corporations, small businesses, mid-size, and I can say, hey, well, I have 5 businesses who have contracted with me. But then on the flip side, there's another, competitor out there who's been like, oh, well, I made 1,000 pre-orders of this one product, but my revenue intake is, let's say $500, and his is $10 from all of his pre-orders. Is it more of a quantity or quality basis that you find represents the most traction for your business?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
It's more about how you're choosing to go about and talk about your beachheads and then report back to us.
So first Did everyone hear that question? Adam, did you hear that question?
I think so.
So it's trying to, I think we're confusing like the opportunity with what you're reporting.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
They are kind of different. The opportunity as if I was an investor trying to assess, right? And again, for this competition, like if you've watched Shark Tank, you actually have a little bit of a disservice because none of us are going to sit there with like pencils and like pencil objects. You're thinking math out if I invest, right? Like that's not, like a judge is not doing that right now. But what they are going to do is like, okay, have they put the work in to figure out somewhat definitively that what they're going to do will work? Right? Like that's really the question that we're asking ourselves. And so there isn't one way to go talk about that traction. But if you've got, you said 5 businesses signed up?
Yeah.
And you've got some tests, like what you really need to do is talk to us about why that matters.
Gotcha.
Right? Because you've done some of this work that you actually have some traction in the marketplace. And you might even spend a little bit more time, since you already have some traction, you want to talk about why that matters, but then talk about like, okay, well now I know that I can go sell this to 5 companies. I'm fairly confident that I can grow this to this point in the next 12 months based on what I've learned. How long would you start?
Probably a year and a half ago.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So like, play that forward. Could you triple that in a year and a half?
Oh, I mean, the funding was at 100%.
Okay, well, so now you know what to put in your slide. Okay.
Great. Good question, Isaiah. Thank you.
So we have some more in the chat. What if I'm the differentiator? My story is my secret sauce. Ooh, sorry, Zoom can't find the question.
Here, let me see if I can pull it up here, Kara.
So it is what brings candidates to me, and the candidates are the widget.
I have some very specific questions for me, so if it makes sense, like
Jenny, go for it.
no, it was my question. So obviously, like I'm kind of a marketplace, right? Like I'm finding candidates and then I'm taking those candidates, training them, and then presenting them to hiring partners who then are paying me a placement fee. Similar to a recruiter, except for I'm also providing job training to make people like ready for the role. My secret sauce in attracting candidates is that I'm a woman who came from a low wage background and changed her life through tech sales. That's why people come to me. That's what they're looking for. So like that story is kind of the secret sauce and what brings people to me. And as far as like a competitor who only focuses on women for SaaS sales roles, there's not one. So like my story is the secret sauce. So what is the appropriate way to discuss that without being conceited or
So I've seen your pitch, so I have a little bit of and I'll give you feedback that I probably should have given you 6 months ago. The story's great and it works, which is why you won money. But the thing that you're really going to have to address to make the viability of your business believable is how it scales beyond you, right? So you have to talk about some outsized value on why you think that being the leader, like you being the leader of this organization, who's also going to have other people that you bring under you to affect change, why you're the person that's going to do that. Because that's the differentiator that goes from being like, I'm a very small, contract sourcing agency to this is something that's an investable opportunity. So that's what, I mean, I've heard your story. It's a great story. It works. I don't think it sounds conceited. I don't think it sounds out of place. I agree with you that is part of the secret sauce of why your pitch works. But I think the question that you have to ask and answer in a pitch that will kind of take it to the next level is how you scale it.
super helpful.
If I might say, I think that's really well said, Nick. I think it's important to have an emotional reason behind it, but I once was in a seminar and someone asked, is your business important enough that if you died, would it continue? And I really like that. I like the thought of that. So for me, yeah, my grandpa did die, and I do use that. Like that's an emotional grab, and it gives reason and drive, and it gets people behind you, right? But if I die, does my product continue? Like, is there a flow with the market? I think the most important thing is I almost would say plan it without you and your emotion to the side. Run it as if you're not a part of it, and then sprinkle in that emotional effect. Because if that's your story, and then you die or get hit by a bus, unfortunate, right? But will the world continue with it? But now you're not there to tell the story. And so my thing is, what's the vision of the company? Like, where's it going? And we'll sprinkle that emotion in there and that drive. It is the secret sauce. That's what delivers that final punch, but it can't be the only punch, right? And Rocky, there's all these back and forth, and then there's that final, he's a southpaw. That's the final hit that does the round. And I'd use that as almost to say the secret sauce, the final hit, but it can't be the only punch you've got. That would be my.
And to say another way, the thing that wins a pitch competition, it helps when all the other pieces are right? You're the right person, all these things that Adam is talking about. But the company also has to be viable and believable, right? And so to that point of, like, will it survive beyond you? By the way, like right now, if any of you pitched me and then said it's going to survive beyond me, you're full of it, because we invest in founders who don't have anything yet, right? Like, so we know that. So I don't know if I'd like have it that way in your head, but what I'd say is, definitely focus on the problem, the solution, and why me, and focus on how big the opportunity is, and focus on kind of these other pieces of like why we should pay attention to them, right? Like that's a big part of this. And so, but play to the strengths that you have. I mean, again, Adam and Jenny, actually, for that matter, you guys both have pretty good stories that you tell on why we should hear your pitch, why we should listen to you. And you both start out with it pretty strongly. And I wouldn't be shy about it. I think it works in a lot of cases because you're trying to connect with the founder and why they're the right people to solve this problem.
Cool. Well, I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So if we have one more question, we can answer that. If not, we will wrap up.
I'm happy to stick around if there's other questions that we didn't address.
Likewise.
I'm happy to stick around if people have questions that they want addressed.
Okay.
Cool?
Yeah, of course. Any other questions in the chat, Kara? No?
Or even good jokes.
Good.
Yeah, well, so one final note. First, thank you to everyone on Zoom and here. Thank you to Adam. Thank you to Nick. I appreciate you taking your time to share your experiences with the IEC applicants for 2022. Adam brings up jokes. Remember, if you find yourself in the winner's circle, you've got to have a joke. Okay, Adam won, and we said, Adam, what are you thinking? And he said, how do you feel? He said, I'm like a cow running through an open field. I'm utterly tickled. And then said, my wife told me not to say that joke. I think that might have been my favorite moment of IEC last year.
Tell you how many people afterwards have been like, I just remember your joke.
See? Hey, they remembered, right? And I think we had a joke in the chat there. So
what happens when you mix a rhetorical question with a joke?
What happens when you mix a rhetorical question with a joke? I don't know. Who's there?
That was good.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, I think we'll wrap up.